Some things in this world just ignore logic. You can try to make sense of them, but the deeper you dig, the crazier they get. From unsolved vanishings to insanely bizarre natural phenomena, these events will have you questioning everything you think you know about reality. Some are barely backed by science, while others are still a total mystery, and these aren't just old legends passed down for generations. A bunch of these mind-bending moments happened recently, caught on camera or confirmed by eyewitnesses. Yet even with all our advanced tech, they still leave scientists completely stumped. So, if you think you're up for it, here are 15 strange occurrences that are just too wild for words. But before we dive in, don't say we didn't warn you. Number 15. The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In 1959, 9 skillful hikers went into Russia's snowy Ural Mountains with big goals, but sadly they never made it out alive. And in 2025, the case is still a mystery. Their bodies were found scattered across a slope in eerie, almost Frankenstein-core fashion. The tent is slashed open from the inside, like something scared the absolute soul out of them. Some of them ran into sub-zero snow barefoot. Like, barefoot. In Siberia, one guy had a smashed skull, another had ribs like a broken xylophone, and one lady was missing her tongue. And here's where it goes full Twilight Zone. There were no outer wounds. Like, how are your bones destroyed but your skin's just chilling? Some even had radiation on their clothes. Now there are a lot of theories behind it, like government testing, aliens, and the Yeti. The Russian government finally said avalanche in 2019, but it barely explains half the mess. Over 65 years later, and the internet still hasn't solved it, which means this case is probably unsolvable, or just too cursed to touch. Choose your fighter. Number 14. The Man from Tard. So let's now picture this. A well-dressed businessman lands at Tokyo's Haneda Airport in 1954, hands over his passport, and boom, instant glitch in the matrix. His passport was from a country called Tard, not France, not USA, not Djibouti. Tard. Borderline Narnia sounding. Immigration stares blankly. That country doesn't exist. And this guy, he's confused, annoyed, and already planning to speak to someone's manager. He insists Tard is real. He said he has been around for centuries, and points at a map where, get this, Andorra sits in our world. But his passport looked legit, with real stamps, real visas, and real everything. His company existed. His bank existed. Just not here. Authorities locked him in a hotel room under guard while they figured it out. The next morning, he was gone. Poof. No window escape, no front desk logs. No lol JK I'm from Andorra. Note, just gone. So either this dude hopped back to his dimension, or we just let a parallel tourist slip through border control like it was no big deal. TSA would never. Number 13. The disappearance of Flight MH370. Okay, let's talk aviation horror. A massive Boeing 777, one of the most advanced planes ever built, takes off like normal, 239 people on board, all chill. And then, it just disappears. No mayday, no distress signal. Just vanishes mid-air like it got Thanos snapped. That was Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, March 8, 2014. It took off from Kuala Lumpur, headed to Beijing, and less than an hour in, it veered off course and ghosted radar. We mean, like for real. It became the most expensive, wide-scale search in aviation history, and still, only a few chunks of wreckage have ever turned up. Was it pilot error, hijacking, or a stealth crash in a hidden ocean trench? The conspiracy internet went feral. Some even believe it landed on purpose somewhere off-grid. In 2023, new drift simulations gave us fresh hope, and still, nothing. Not a blip, not a beep. Honestly, how does a plane that big just peace out from existence like DB Cooper in flight mode? Number 12. The Dancing Plague of 1518. Alright, imagine waking up and suddenly your legs are like, nah, we're dancing today. All day. Against your will. Sounds freakishly unreal, right? That's exactly what went down in Strasbourg 1518. And you can Google it. One woman started boogieing non-stop in the street. No music, no vibe, just full-on possessed shuffle mode. Within days, hundreds joined in. People danced until they collapsed, passed out, and yes, some literally danced themselves to death. The town officials said their solution was peak medieval logic: hire musicians. Yeah, let's add a band to this nightmare. That only made things worse. Scientists today think it might have been ergot poisoning, aka moldy rye bread, that basically LSD'd the whole town. Others call it mass psychogenic illness, which is a fancy way of saying collective stress broke everybody's brain. And this wasn't a one-time thing either. There were other dance plagues, proving once and for all that history has been insane for centuries. No TikTok, no beats, just cursed cardio till you drop. Number 11. The Max Headroom broadcast hijacking. If you were flipping channels in Chicago on November 22, 1987, you probably thought your TV caught a demon virus. During a normal news broadcast, from nowhere, static hits. The screen glitches, and suddenly there's this creepy dude wearing a Max Headroom mask doing God knows what. Rambling nonsense. Moving like a broken animatronic. At one point, he's literally getting spanked with a fly swatter. Well, yup, that happened. And then click signals back. People were like, what did I just watch? Later that night, during a Doctor Who rerun, it happened again. Same weird dude, same chaotic vibe. Authorities scrambled, the FCC, FBI, even tech nerds trying to track down the hijacker. But they got nothing. Zero suspects. No names, no arrests. To this day, it's one of the boldest, most bizarre unsolved broadcast hacks ever. And the guy never showed up again. Like he popped into reality, made the creepiest meme possible, then noped out forever. And honestly, respect. But also, never do that again. Number 10. The Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, Arizona didn't just see stars, it saw something straight out of a sci-fi fever dream. Thousands of people, from Phoenix to Nevada and even parts of Mexico, all looked up and saw the same thing, a massive V-shaped arrangement of glowing lights slowly cruising across the sky. Not flickering, not darting around, just one giant silent shadow blotting out the stars like it owned the place. And this wasn't your neighbor mistaking Venus for a UFO. We're talking about an entire city watching something move in perfect formation overhead with zero sound and an overwhelming sense of, okay, that's not normal. The military shrugged it off with the old just flares excuse, but people weren't buying it, especially when the lights didn't fall, fade, or flicker like anything that comes out of a jet. Even Arizona's governor admitted it messed with his head. To this day, there's no solid explanation, just a sky full of mysterious questions. Number 9. The vanishing village of Anjikuni Lake. Back in the 1930s, a Canadian fur trapper named Joe LaBelle paddled up to the Inuit village near Anjikuni Lake, expecting a warm fire and familiar faces, but what he got was a full-blown horror story. The place was just empty. We're talking houses fully intact, food still on plates, and even sled dogs frozen solid where they were tied. Fires were still crackling. Clothes were hanging. It looked like the entire village had just gotten up mid-sentence and disappeared into thin air. There were no signs of violence, no footprints, no clue as to where anyone went. It was like they'd been scooped out of existence. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police looked into it, but nothing ever came of it. No evidence, no conclusions, just awkward silence. Some people say the whole thing was exaggerated, or even a hoax, but no one's been able to debunk it. And really, how do you fake an entire missing village? That's not just a mystery, that's nightmare stuff. Number 8. The Toxic Lady of Riverside. Gloria Ramirez wasn't expecting to become a medical X-file when she was admitted to the emergency room in Riverside on February 19, 1994. She was in late-stage cancer, already in bad shape, but the real horror began when doctors started treating her. Nurses noticed a bizarre oily sheen on her skin and a sharp chemical stench coming from her body. Within minutes, hospital staff began dropping like flies. One passed out, another couldn't breathe, one even had convulsions. The ER had to be cleared, and Gloria died shortly after, but nobody could figure out why being near her was like standing next to a gas leak from hell. Some experts guessed she was using a chemical called dimethyl sulfone, which might have broken down into toxic gas under hospital conditions. Others said it was just mass hysteria, but that doesn't explain the physical reactions. Not everyone was affected, and the ones who got seriously messed up. That's why people still call her the toxic lady, because no one has ever explained what actually happened. Number 7. The hum. There's a noise out there that most people can't hear, and it's driving the ones who can absolutely insane. It's been called the hum, and it sounds like a distant diesel engine that never turns off. But it's not coming from the fridge, the neighbors, or anything trackable. It just lingers. Constantly. People in Taos, New Mexico were among the first to make it famous, but similar reports have popped up in the UK, Canada, Australia, pretty much everywhere at this point. The weirdest part, scientists have brought in high-end audio gear and found nothing unusual. It's like the sound exists only for the unlucky few who can hear it. Some say it's electromagnetic interference. Others blame secret military tech or some underground infrastructure humming away. And of course, the conspiracy crowd thinks it's aliens or a mind control experiment gone wrong. Whatever it is, there's no clear answer. But if you hear the hum, it's not just annoying, it's a low-frequency mystery that might never shut up. All right, now, let's talk about something futuristic. Number 6. The Time Traveler from 2036. Sometime in the early 2000s, the internet met a man named John Titor, or at least someone who claimed that was his name. He popped up in online forums saying he was a time traveler from the year 2036, here on a mission to grab an old IBM 5100 computer. Why? Well, because apparently that specific machine had a secret function needed to fix future tech problems. Which weirdly, it did, a fact that only a handful of engineers even knew at the time. He shared details about how his time machine worked, allegedly installed in a 1987 Chevy, answered endless questions, and made a few bold predictions about world events. Some of his claims were wrong, but a surprising number felt disturbingly accurate. And then, just as suddenly as he showed up, he vanished. No more posts, no more replies, just disappeared into the digital fog. Whether he was a brilliant troll, an insider with weird access, or something else entirely, John Titor left behind one of the internet's most legendary question marks. All right, now, let's move to number 5, the Baltic Sea anomaly. In 2011, a Swedish diving team scanning the seafloor for shipwrecks picked up something unexpected, a circular object sitting 300 feet deep in the Baltic Sea. The shape was bizarrely perfect, almost too clean for nature to take credit. It measured around 200 feet across and looked more like a crashed spacecraft than any natural rock formation. Over time, divers reported strange interference when trying to approach. Radios cut out, sonar glitched, and equipment failed with no explanation. Some thought it was leftover military tech, others said it was a Cold War relic, and then came the obvious whispers: UFO. One look at the sonar images and suddenly ancient aliens weren't such a stretch. No one's been able to identify it. Not geologists, not oceanographers, not governments. Even in 2025, the Baltic Sea anomaly sits untouched and unexplained, like it's waiting. Either it's a bizarre fluke of nature that accidentally looks engineered, or something really did land out there, and the sea swallowed the evidence. Number 4. The Pollock twins reincarnation case. Gillian and Jennifer Pollock were born in 1958 to parents who were still grieving the loss of their 2 older daughters, Joanna and Jacqueline, killed in a car accident the year before. The family lived in Hexham, England, and they weren't prepared for what came next. As toddlers, the twins started referencing places they'd never visited, called toys by names no one taught them, and described events only the previous girls would have known. The details weren't vague either. They knew the layout of their old house, the school their sisters went to, even how Joanna and Jacqueline had died. As they grew older, the memories started fading, exactly the way many reincarnation cases describe. But during those early years, the overlap was unsettling. Doctors couldn't explain it. Psychologists didn't have a framework for it. Nothing about it fits inside any box labeled coincidence. Whether it was memory transfer, something genetic, or something far stranger, the Pollock twins left a question behind that still hasn't been answered. Number 3. The Pig War. A dead pig nearly sparked a war between the United States and Great Britain in 1859, and that's not a metaphor. An American farmer living on San Juan Island found a pig eating his crops, so he shot it. Unfortunately, the pig belonged to the Hudson's Bay Company, a British operation. One shot led to 2 governments digging in their heels. Troops were deployed. Naval ships pulled up. Both sides aimed their guns, and for more than a decade the standoff dragged on. No shots were fired beyond that original one. No casualties, no battlefield. Just years of military posturing over one unlucky pig. Eventually, a neutral arbitrator stepped in and handed the islands to the US. The whole thing ended without violence, but the absurdity never left the history books. The fact that it went on for 12 years still baffles historians. One trigger-happy settler, one hungry pig, and 2 global powers nearly lost their minds. That's the Pig War. Number 2. Kentucky Meat Shower. Chunks of meat rained from the sky over Bath County, Kentucky in 1876, and no one's ever fully explained how or why. Witnesses described the pieces as fatty, bloody, and spread across a huge patch of grass, like it had exploded out of a butcher shop in the clouds. Scientists analyzed the samples and identified muscle, lung tissue, and connective tissue. The official theory: a flock of vultures mid-flight, startled by something, simultaneously emptied their stomachs as part of a natural defense reaction. The idea fits the size, spread, and grotesque variety of the meat, but no one saw any birds, and the chunks didn't match any single animal. People were baffled. A few even tasted it, claiming it was either mutton or venison. Whether it was birds, biology, or a divine prank, no one ever followed up with more than a shrug. Over a century later, the Kentucky Meat Shower still stands as one of the strangest, grossest, and most unanswered weather events in recorded history. Number 1. The Mary Celeste Ship Mystery. The Mary Celeste has haunted maritime history ever since it was found drifting across the Atlantic in December 1872. The crew of the DEI Gracia, a Canadian merchant vessel, spotted the ship off the coast of Portugal, sailing aimlessly with no one at the helm. As they got closer, it became clear that something was seriously off. The Mary Celeste was completely intact. No damage, no signs of violence, and plenty of provisions still on board. But the crew, gone. All 10 people had simply vanished without a trace. Everything was in place, from cargo to the captain's log, yet the ship was eerily silent. Theories exploded: mutiny, pirates, waterspouts, seaquakes, alcohol fumes, even supernatural forces, but none have ever stuck. The Mary Celeste didn't just become a mystery, it became the ghost ship. 150 years later, the ocean still hasn't coughed up a single clue about what really happened out there. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.